Alright, check it. Today we're gonna build a code snippet manager. So basically what this allows you to do is you add your code and you save it as a snippet. And it's great for allowing you to go back to any code snippets that you used before or any questions you search for on StackOverflow. You can always reference back to them. So I have a whole list here. Yeah, so I have a whole list here. You could and as you can see, it has a bit of styling, which is not common. But yeah, so it actually looks pretty good considering what I usually do, and it works pretty well. You could choose the different languages and stuff like that. You could update it, and then you could choose to delete it if you want. It asks you to confirm if you want to delete it. So it's pretty cool. It's only in one file, and I kind of like it so much. I think I'm going to use it. Put it on our own server to use it. So I'm going to show you how to build this step by step. Let's get into it. Alright, for the most part, you know the drill. We have our application. We call it code snippets. We created an app. That is our main file. We have our template here. So let's just give it some name. It's going to be code snippets or creator or something like that. And we're going to give it a title, code snippets. Right, so the first thing we need is a form. So let's do that. Let's build our form. Make sure the method is post, and let's give it some input. So the snippet should have a title, definitely. So we're gonna give that a input text. We can give it a name one time. Call it title. Autocomplete off because no. The next thing we want in the snippet is we want the list of languages, I believe. So you could choose what languages you could choose your languages, right? Let's put a page break there. All right. So languages, this is going to be a select. So we know we do a select open and close. We're going to give it a name. We're going to name it languages, and then we put in our languages. So the first one would be just to select one, and the rest will be a list of languages that we could choose from. So we would be choosing, based on what I have here, PHP being the original. We have JavaScript coming to a close second. This is Java there, being king of its own domain. We have SQL being necessary for databases. We have Bash for server side. Alright, so those are the main languages we're going to go with. Obviously, you could add more. We add a page break. The next thing we want is our web link. So this is for the case where maybe you copied the answer maybe from StackOverflow and you wanted to save the link. So you could always reference back the link, right? So we're just going to name this the link, or maybe URL. It doesn't really matter. I had the URL, so I'm going to stick with that. Alright, and now we're going to put the code. So this is where the code is going to go. We're going to give it a break, and we're going to put a text area, and we're going to set the parameters of this. This is going to be, colors is going to be 50, rows is going to be 7. So that should be big enough to have everything that we need. And at the end, we're going to have a submit button that just says save code snippet. Right, save code snippet. Great. The type is going to be submit. The name is going to be save code. So we run that and we have a little error, so we're just going to fix that error now. We just want to put a page break in between the text break and the button. And so now we kind of have our code snippet going there. Maybe we could add some placeholders here just to get an idea, and clearly take off autocomplete, because who knows? Who knows? You don't have to do this. This is just for me. So we're gonna add a little placeholder. So you're gonna say enter snippet title and placeholder. What is the link? It could be anything. It's totally up to you. All right, so we have some placeholders now, and so we kind of halfway there. The next thing we need to do now is go into the database, create the table, and make sure we can upload stuff to the database. So I would have already done this, so I'm just going to show it to you. Create table. We name in database code. We name in the table code snippets. It has an ID, a title, a URL, a language, content, which is where you're going to put the code. That's just text. Most of the default values are null. So you could just copy this, remove this, auto increment. So this is basically what you need to actually create the table that we're going to do. So our table is already created, and you can see we already have content in it from our previous testing. We're going to at some point truncate this. All right, so we have our table. Let's actually try to upload some stuff. All right, so we know how we do this. If server, something like that, request method, right? If is equal to post, and so we just checking to see if we send in the correct thing. We collect in the correct form, save code, right? So most likely we would have named our button that save code. So we know that we're getting some data from the correct form. All right, so we get to go there. Now we need our connection as always. So I'm just going to copy that across because we know by now how to create it. So that's our connection function, which initiates our interaction with the database. All right, so what we actually need to do now is create a function to actually save the code. So we're going to say function save snippet. So, and what we want to get in that function is the title. So let's just write out title, language, the content. We can do URL first. Let's do URL first and then content. And that's it. So basically, once we have that, we get our connection. Get connection. And now we want to create the SQL to actually insert this stuff into the database. It's going to be like insert into code snippets. And we have our stuff here, right? So title. All right, so after language, we have content. And then we have URL. And that should be everything we need to, that should be everything we need to save it to the database. So then we do our queries equal to connection prepare, pass in the SQL statement, and then we just need to execute and pass in the variables. So it would be title, language, URL, content, URL, because that's the order we put it in the SQL. And then we could return the ID using last insert ID function. So that'll give us the ID of the snippet that we just saved. All right, so now in here, when we collect this when we go into submit the form, or when we submitted the form, we're going to do something similar. So we're kind of repeating ourselves, but you understand what we're doing. So we want to get the title from the form. We also want to get the language from the form. We want to get the content from the form. Actually, I don't think I named this content, so I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna check now. So let's just make sure we name it content. So that should be in our text area. We didn't give it a name, so we're gonna name it content. All right, and then the last thing is the URL. So the URL, we get the URL from the form. And what we say is if we have everything, so everything that should be required, once we have it, we're going to post it to the form. So we're going to say if title, language, content, we're actually going to save snippet. Now we could pass in everything, right? Even though I need to see what it came up as. Even though URL could be null, we could still pass it in. This is wrong. Should be and, right? if title and language and content, then save snippet, and then we can get the ID here. So let's test all of this. I have some mix up with my recording device here. So just to go back through this, if you notice on our save snippet function, we have a grave error. So we're just going to fix that. We're going to add values and just put in what the value is supposed to be, right? So we're expecting 4, so we just put in 4. Alright, so and now we're going to run our test again to see if it works. So our test says title, choose a language, choose a link, and put code there. We save it. And we want to see if it comes up in the database, right? Alright, so more errors. Bear with me. Alright, so we had it as languages. So again, because we have the if statements forcing it to only submit based on the whether or not it exists, it won't just show up, right? Alright, so we know we get there. So let's actually clear this. We're going to truncate the table now, and we now get it. So I have a frequent question here from StackOverflow. So I'm just going to copy that in. If I can, how can I prevent from SQL injection? The language is going to be PHP. We're going to save the web link. Oh, this is the correct web link. And then we're going to add any code that we see that makes sense. So they gave 2 options. We're just going to choose this first one here. We're going to paste that in and save code snippet. So let's see if we see that in the database. So how do I prevent? We have the URL, we have the language, and we have the content. If we go into the form mode, we can see the actual content. So this is great. Very good. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to split the screen in half, and that will allow us to, so the one half is where we're going to actually submit the code, and the other half is where we're going to display it. So we're going to do that now. That's going to incorporate some CSS, you know, my favorite kind of stuff to be working with. Alright, so I'm going to put in a style element here, and then we're going to create some divs, right? So the first div is where we're going to have our code snippets. So we're just going to copy this down here. So that's the first div. So we could actually put a comment just to make it make more sense to us. Right or left? Left side. Right? And then the right side, we're going to add another div. So you're going to say end of left side. And we're going to say start of right side. So we're going to put our div, another div there, and this is just going to say view code snippet. Alright, so when we demo this, we won't see anything special as it's just showing below, because right now it's just 2 divs, right? But alright, so let's add some styles. So first we need a container style. So we're going to say container. I copied this from somewhere. I can't remember. Alright, so we give it a width of 99%. We give it a background of some kind of gray. Make it float left for some reason. And give it a padding of 20. Alright. And then we're going to have something called, well, what should we call it? The left side? The left side is the form. So let's call it form container. So to give the class a name, form container, right? So in form container, we're going to give this a width of 500 px. We're going to tell it float right because we want it to be on the right. We're going to give it a background of F6, F6, F6. going to give it the famous border, well, border radius of 3px, and the famous border of, you know what this border is. Alright, so we're going to give it the famous border. We're going to give it some padding. We're going to give it a min height, 500px. So let's see how this all looks. Let's see what we are building. So I don't think that's what we want. So we either do nonsense or we not following the instructions guide. So we have two divs, and the final div is going to be the container. So let's see if that fixes it. So we have the left div and the right div, and both of them are going to be inside a container. So that doesn't give me what I want at all. It does not give me what I want. Form container says float right. We should say float left. But it doesn't float at all. Alright, so let's take out the float. Yeah. Let's worry about this other guy. So this other guy is, this class is going to be view container. So this is where we're going to view the code. So the view container, we're going to make him float right. Maybe that would give us the desired effect. Also note, you see our little styling? So this is the background, and then we have a nice little border. Gives it a nice look. I don't think my original one was like this either. The pattern really makes it look good here. Anyway, so view code snippet. So we are going to give this a similar styling, because that seems to be what's fancy. Alright, so we give it a max height as well. And let's just see how it looks. It looks there, but it's kind of lonely in the corner. So we want to know what's going on with it. We want it to be not like that. Alright, so that seems to help. So yeah. We actually want it to be wider, so it's not wide enough as yet, and that's probably because we have a width on it. So let's put a width on this one as well. That's the view container. We probably don't need a width on this one. The form container probably doesn't need a width, but we gave it a width anyway. I don't like how close it is to the corner, so I'm going to say margin right. Just going to give it a little space from the corner. I find it's too close, although this separation would be great if I could get that effect. What did I do to get that? I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. See, it has a nice spacing here. It should have that kind of spacing. Alright, anyway, you want the height to be a basic thing as well. So you're gonna say min height, right? Min height in the view container should be like 500. So that means it should always expand. Great. So we kind of halfway there. We probably don't want this at all. So we might want to check on that. Maybe we don't give this a width. I don't think that helped. But it looks... Which one looks better? Alright. So that's enough styling though. So we kind of halfway there. So now we're going to add some code to our view container. We're going to give a div. We could call this class code, right? Maybe. Yes? No? And we're going to put some code in here. And how do we display code generally speaking? We display code within a pre block. So we do like pre, and then we say code. Then we're going to copy some code. So we have some code here. So just going to copy that in. Right? You just want to see how it looks. So this is good. What would be better is if we could somehow this is good for now. Maybe we could draw a border around this, maybe. So we have a class called code. Because I know we're going to use this, I'm going to change this class to, what should I change it to? code view. Let's just change it to code view, code block. That might be better. And then I'm just gonna give it our famous border. You know what it is. Yeah, we're just gonna copy and paste this, right? So that's good. Yeah, that's good. I think we can do overflow auto as well. Yeah. So a lot of this is going to change because we're going to add a plugin that kind of styles it up for us. So we kind of halfway there. So the next thing we need to do now is we need to display all the code snippets that we saved to the database. So we're going to check that out now. We only have one, but we want to display them. So in order to do that, get all snippets. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get all our snippets. So let's begin. We're going to create a function called get all snippets. Function get all snippets, and this function has one purpose: to get all the snippets from the database. So that's all it's gonna do. So we begin. We have a try catch, and that's fine. No complaints. And within our try block, we get our connection. And we do our query. Select star from code snippets. Oh boy, am I doing the right thing? No. Yeah, that's it. That's it for us. That is it for us. That is it for us. Alright, so let's just do a query here and get the results. And that should give us everything we need. I don't always remember what I'm doing. That's not good. Alright, so get all snippets. Alright, so below we're going to create another so now our left side we're going to add some spacing, and we're going to create another div. This is going to be called code listing, I guess, or snippets list. If you go to give it a class name, what would we call it? Snippet listing. That could be class name. And then we have a UL element, which is a list, and a li element, which lists whatever my first snippet. Of course, we pull in this from the database, so we have a for each, and then we say get all snippets. We say as snippet. We have to end this for each loop. And then of course, okay. Yeah. This is wrong. We just need to put 2 dots. And then within it, we echo the snippet. Most likely it will be by title, in the sense that that's the name from the database. It's named title. Alright, so that should work fine. Let's reload the page. That's fantastic. Now you will notice that it is extending. We actually don't want that to happen. So here's what we're going to do. It's quite unfortunate. Maybe we should leave it just like that. I am thinking while I'm recording. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a smaller div. We're going to call this div form div. I don't know what to call it. So we have the form container, but we actually want a div called form content, I guess. I'm not very good at naming these things. So form content, and I'll show you why I'm doing it like this. The only thing we need to worry about is this. I'll probably padding as well. And the reason for that is because I want to separate all the 3 sections. So we have a section here, we have a section here, we have a section here, and then we have a section here. And that section, the last section that we call snippet listing, we want to actually add our own special styling for that. It's going to have different properties, I think, as well, so it would be good if we do that. So this should give us what we want, right? Alright, so we have 3 sections, and that is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to put a little header there, all snippets. Alright, now we want to give this, we can give this a max height. We can always change this after. Min height or max height. So the min height could be 300 px, and the max height could be 500 px. Right now that's too tall, so we have to take out the max height from the this. Right, so it will expand. So this is great. So we have all our snippets here. We could view the snippets across here. We could save the snippet here. And as you can see, we're already displaying a name. So we have a list of frequent questions. So one, the mighty undefined variable. We could save it as what to do with undefined variable. We don't need to spell it correctly. Alright, so we just choose the language as PHP, we copy the link, and we choose some options. This is not really what you want, right? You want actually, but I'm just saying you can do that. You want actually answers to codes. Oh, these questions suck. You want some actual code questions. All these questions are suggestions. Anyway, so yeah, so we are good to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be able to allow you to click on one of these snippets and view whatever we have in it in the code section across here. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to focus on that next. Alright, so to actually click on the link, all we need to do is put in an anchor link or here. So we pass in the title, and the href is going to be the same name of this PHP file, which is called app, but we're just going to pass in the ID. We're going to get the current ID from the snippet object. Is it an object or the snippet array? Alright, so that should actually do it. We're just going to reload the page. Right, so the URL of this, you probably can't see it, but it says ID1 and then ID2. So, well, you can actually click on it and you should see ID1 and ID2. Alright, so what we need to do now is we need to get the current snippet that we're on. So let's say we press the link here, we need to get the actual snippet, so it should show here, and it should also show in the view code snippet area. So let's check that out now. So the function we're going to create is called getSnippet. So function getSnippet, passing the ID. Should we be doing that? Passing in the, yeah. So we want a specific snippet, so that's what we pass it in. We have our try catch block here. So we're gonna get the connection by calling the getConnection function, and then we say query is equal to connection prepare. We put in the statement, which is select star from code snippets, which is the name of the table where ID is equal to whatever the ID is supposed to be. Limit 1 is just in case, but that should never be a problem because ID is a primary key, right? So this is absolutely unnecessary, but a habit. Anyway, we say query and execute. We pass in the ID, and then we can get the results. So we say results is equal to query fetch all. and then we check to see if we have any results. So we say if we have any results in the first item of the array, the first block of the array, then we put results that we defined earlier equal to that, because we only want the first otherwise we just return an empty array, or in this case, okay, this is only catch. We could do the same thing in catch. Right now we're not putting anything for that, otherwise results is equal to an empty array. And at the end of the function we just return results. Alright, so now at the top, well, not necessarily at the top, but what we're going to do is we're going to create some global variables now. So one global variable will be ID, so this will be the current ID. Of course, one will be content. This is the actual code. Snippet. Title is the name of the snippet. Language is the current language. And URL is the current URL, right? So these are some global variables. And if now we're going to say if I have said get ID. So if you see ID in the URL, we can assign ID to whatever that is in the get parameter, and then we're going to say data, and we're going to call the get snippet function that we just created. So if we have an ID, we want to get it. If we have an ID, we actually want to query the database to find that particular snippet, and if the data exists, if it's not empty, so maybe we could do not empty. I don't think this will work with an array. This might actually be a problem. But anyway, if it's not empty, we could assign the global variables to whatever the current ID is pointing to, which is data from the database. So that's all we're doing here. Language data. So this is great. And we could stop there. We could just check it out to see how things going. So we didn't get any errors, right? So one of the first thing we want to check for is title. So let's check for title. We could go to the form, and in the value place we could put title here. So that's global. So in the case that we pull in from the correct thing, it should show. If it's not showing, we're not pulling from the database. So we have an error there. Or maybe our value is wrong. So let's see what's going on quickly. So let's dig into it a bit further. I have to check to see what's causing the error. I'm just gonna go through some troubleshooting with you. I can cut this out as a video. So first I'm gonna echo here because I want to see exactly what's going on, right? So I want to see if we reaching this part at all. So I go there, I check. So as you can see in the corner here, you can barely see it, but there's here. So that means, let me pull the arrow across. Can I? No. Anyway, yeah. So that means we're going there. Let me make it longer. Here we are testing. Alright, so you can see it showing up there. So we go into the right place. So the next thing to know is if we're getting data. So we could do var dump to see if we could get any information from that data. And as you can see, we are getting information from that data, although it seems to be much more, just the right amount. Let's see, are we seeing 2 titles? We have 3 titles, so that means we get the right amount of data. So that's great. So the next question is if data is empty. So I don't know what, so that function is probably wrong, right? So we just remove it and we're just going to try it without it, and you see we get the error. So I'm going to have to double check this, but I don't think you can check to see if an array is empty like that. It certainly probably doesn't work as you expect it to. Alternatively, you could just return null, and that would solve our problem. Alright, so let's remove the troubleshooting parts. we know that we get any data, our var_dump is working. So we know we good to go. So what is an undefined variable? Let's first display the other things. So we want to display the code, the web link, and the language, and then we'll come across to the view code snippet section. All right, so web link should be easy. Value, echo, URL. Code snip should be easier. Echo content. And let's try that out. Yeah. So languages is going to be kind of hard. So stay with me. It's not actually going to be hard. It's going to be kind of hard. They're really hard. All right. So what we're going to do here, you notice we don't have a value for any of these. So first, I'd put a value. So value is equal to PHP. Value is equal to JavaScript. Value is equal to Java. Value is equal to SQL. Value is equal to Bash. So we're doing that. I mean, that's just for when we're submitting. I don't know how this is working before if we didn't have that. That's PHP there. How did it end up with PHP? We would never know. Anyway, so now that it has a value, we want to decide if it's selected or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to say open and close brackets, or whatever you call those things, and we're going to say if language is equal to PHP, then we're going to echo selected, and then we're going to end that there. Yep. So don't get confused by how it looks. Selected is equal to selected. Again, this is kind of confusing. I know that. Also, I seem to have something wrong here, so I'm just double checking. The brackets should be inside, and we don't need this column, right? So basically what this is if language is PHP, then echo selected, and that would make the drop down a selected option. So if I was to scroll it, it should work. It's not working for some reason, and that's unfortunate. I am crying in my eyes. Tears. Alright, there should be PHP, because I'm actually saving it in common. Because I didn't have an option value, I think it just took the name, which is pretty cool. I learned something today. I didn't know it does that. Great. So if it doesn't, so let's do it for the rest. So you're gonna have to do this for the rest. In truth, you could automate this, but we're not going to do it. You could have a table of languages and just automate the whole thing to make your life easier. Select still seems to be kind of complicated to do. Anyway, SQL, and then finally we have Bash. So as you can see, we just copy and paste the code to the rest, and all you had to do was change the language. And this should work for us. And if you want to add more, let's actually add one. So what's another good language to add? Python. Wow. I forgot the king himself. Python. Alright, so Python. Python. Is that correct? Python. Right, so now we have a lot of languages to choose from. I'm going to remove this ID. So if I was to add my new Python snippet, or to give it a type of snippet, type of Python, and put what code? Who knows how to do that? Anyway, and we saved it. It should show up as a Python snippet. Of course, it's not doing that. Why isn't it doing that? Let's check out. It came up as Bash. We don't know why that was the case, because we have the value here as Bash. So we didn't change this to Python. Sad face. So let's go manually and change this to Python in the database. PHP. Apply. We didn't put a link this time, but that's fine. Alright, so Python. Great. So the next thing we're going to do is display it here. And that is pretty simple. all we have to do is remove this and echo content. That's it. So now our actual content will be showing there, and if there's any code, it would show. So this is really good, really good. I seem to have a lot of pattern. What's going on there? Does code block have a pattern? Not to my knowledge. Alright, so that's good. So the next step we want to do, we're gonna add new snippet here, so that if we were ever on an ID, we could clear everything. Start from scratch, start from the beginning. That's just gonna be a basic link. The href is gonna be the name of my my snippet page. What do you call it? Yeah, add new snippet. Fantastic. So we could start from scratch, right? So if we were on one that was selected, I did that wrong. Nope. Right, so we say add new snippet and we start from scratch, and we can click on a previous snippet to see it. So this is great. We're almost there. We are almost there. So what we want to do now is we want to focus on the styling. Alright, so let's get into that. So I'm introducing you to Highlight.js. Highlight.js, say hello to everybody. Alright, Highlight.js is shy. So this allows you to style your code, I guess. How else could I put it? It looks like this. Let's just check it out quickly. See, it looks like this, right? So, ooh, and I could use some code here as well. Right, so this is what Highlight.js allows you to do. So we're actually going to use that here. So I downloaded, well, I didn't download it. So I just used the CDN. So I have this script. So first I have JavaScript, because I can't confirm if I need it or not. So I put jQuery, sorry, not JavaScript, jQuery. So that's just jQuery, and then we have the styling, and so this one is the CSS, and the styling is atom 1 dark min CSS. So you have different options to choose from, right? So I'm using the atom, as you can see, basic getting styling, right? So great, and then you just have to call highlight unload at the top of your page. So I do that as well. HLJS int highlight unload, and I think finally what your code should have is like the class name should identify what kind of code it is. So if it's language, if it's PHP or something else. Oh, I did not change that. So if I look here, right, in the code class, you want to put the type of, you want to say language, dash, and then we're just going to echo what I have for language, whether it's PHP or Python, whatever the case may be. So let's actually see if that works. Look how beautiful it looks. So I have additional pattern, or whatever this is, and I'm not liking that, so I'm going to work on that immediately. I really don't know what it is. View container. Let's inspect and see. See all of this? Poor. See what I did there? Magic. So Overflow Auto seems to be the one creating temporary problems for me. So I thought. just remove everything and see what goes on there. Okay. One second. This looks better actually, yeah? But I want to border on this. So we're gonna have to so we're just gonna have to add the styling on code itself. So what we're gonna say is code. That should do exactly what we want to do. Yes, and now we can make the border thicker if you wanted. So we could say like 5, kind of like how I have it on my website. Nice. It's kind of like this, right? Because I think that looks good. You might disagree. Great. So we done. We are finished. You may go. So yeah. So this is it. So the next, what we want to do next, we wanna add this, make this into like a list. It is a list, but we want it to be scrollable, and we want to limit the height. So that's one of the things we want to do. So I'm gonna pull some code from my site and say creating a tinker window. That's spelled wrong. I'm aware. I'm going to use my own site's URL. Such a fantastic idea, right? So I have so many tutorials here. Let's find some others. Should be primarily about PHP, right? Do you agree? You disagree? No pleasing you. All right, so alright, so we just creating random snippets here. I'm creating a controller. This is PHP, but I'm sure you get to see how it could work. Alright, so it works as expected. You get started. Alright, cool. So now that we have some snippets, we just want to make this scrollable. Alright, so we need an additional div. Because while that is good, we're actually going to control this. So we could call this div snippet listing content. And we're going to give this a height of like 200 and set the overflow to auto. And that should give us scroll bars. And that's kind of what we're going for. We want some scroll bars. Max height 200 px. Let's see if that does it. Oh, we get 2 change font size. Snippet listing is embarrassing me. It's just embarrassing me. And then see what's going on. God damn. Alright, so after hours of embarrassing myself, not to mention I already did this, right? Turns out all you need is over for the auto to give us what we want. And the reason we want this is because we're going to have a lot of snippets eventually, and we want the ability to not have them go straight down. So it's just in this little block here. We can control it there. And once we click on it, it will actually go back to the top of the page because it's loading a new page, and we'll be able to see it. So it's actually pretty cool. So yeah, what we want to do now is we want to be able to edit the snippet that we loaded. So we're going to get into that now. And after we edit, I guess the only other thing left to do is probably delete snippets, and then we are done. Alright, so to edit, what we need to do is we need to change our function called save snippet. And that change is pretty straightforward. So our function currently says save snippet. We're going to add an ID. So we're going to add an ID, and we're going to say if ID. We're going to do something different. Otherwise, we continue as before. So this is great. So we know this doesn't change, and we know that we're returning the ID because we already have it. We just editing it. So the only thing that needs to change now is the SQL. And the SQL goes as follows: update code snippets set title equal to placeholder, language equal to placeholder, content equal to placeholder, URL equal to placeholder, where ID equal to question mark, and then we are complete. Alright, so we run our query conn prepare SQL, and we execute, and we have to pass in our variables. So we have title, we have language, we have content, we have URL, and we have ID, which we would have. Finally, it just returns the ID. So this should be it for us. The only thing now is we have to determine whether or not it's save or, well, we don't have to do that. So basically, when we go and save, we could just pass in the ID. Now remember, ID is initially empty. So anytime it's empty, it won't work, right? So that's great. So if it's empty, nothing should happen. Well, yeah, it's empty. But as long as we have something, how can I prevent SQL injection? So let's say we wanted to change the title. Question, how can I? And we save the code snippet. This should work, and it does seem like it's working. What we actually want to put here is the question as well, so let's go and do that. So you can see the question in that section. So the question is usually named title, and because P has a big pattern, what we're actually going to do is we're going to say if it exists. Or we could just decrease the pattern, but either works. Alright, so yeah. So if you have something, put the pattern, otherwise have nothing. Which we probably could do for the whole code block as well. So it doesn't look like this. Because I don't like how that looks. But if you go that way, we could remove everything. So yeah. How can I prevent SQL injection? What to do about an undefined variable? Hello world and Flutter. Hello world and Flutter. Nice. Oh, you need to check the update. So we're going to change the font size. We're going to put it to 50. And put the comment as 50 as well. We just save that. As you can see, we are good to go. Alright, so let's work on delete now. We are going to say, we're going to put, do you want to delete here? So that's if you want to delete the code block, which is fine. So we put in it above the button. So let's begin. We say HR for styling, HR for more styling. Do you want to delete this snippet? Button. Type submit. Name equal delete. Confirm. Yes, delete. You can't see it. Alright. Yes, delete. So reloading the page just to see how that looks. Do you want to delete the snippet? Snippet is spelled wrong. So I'm just going to fix that. This should only be applicable if it exists. But if what exists, if we on a current snippet. So if we have an ID, only then does delete apply. Otherwise it doesn't apply, so we don't need it. So we put that. So if we put add new, we won't see it come up, right? But as long as we select a snippet, we should see it. So this is great. So the next thing we want to do is we want to check for that specific submit action. So we're going up here, we're going into submit action clean, and we're going to say if we get to delete submit, delete confirm, And here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new page. And that new page has what? A form. And that form says what? That form says, so we're going to, the form says, the method is going to be post. Are you sure you want to delete this? Right? And then it's going to post input type submit. The name is going to be delete code. The value is going to be yes. This is great. We're going to exit this. So I'm just going to show you how this works, right? So we echo in this form and then we exit in. So we are on a current snippet and we press yes delete. Are you sure you want to delete this snippet? So if I press yes, I can actually attempt to delete it. Otherwise, I could create a link that says no. So you could say button no, and on click. I believe I could do this. I don't remember exactly. I can say JavaScript history -1. That's from memory. I'm actually going to have to make sure that works. So we delete the snippet, we say no, and it carries us back. But if you say yes, it should actually make us delete the snippet, and this seems to work. So now we actually want something that deletes the snippet. And to do that, we're going to go here again. This time, remember, the form we're submitting is delete code. We should have an ID either way, or we could check. We could say if ID. Yep. We get a connection because we always have our connection. Then we're going to run a simple query. That query is going to say connection. Prepare. Delete from code snippets where ID is equal to placeholder. Then we pass in our placeholder query. Execute ID, and we can reload the page, location, whatever the file name is, right? If I had it as note, I currently have it as app.php, and then we exit. Alright, so that's our delete function. So we can test this. Nope. So the first one, we're going to attempt to delete that, which is sad, because that was our first. As you can see, it's no longer there. So that was number 1, and now it's no longer in the database. So guess what? That is it. We now have an official snippet manager that you can use to save all the snippets. Actually, we should probably put the URL here as well, so let's do that. I forgot to do that. I'm not paying attention. And actually, is the URL that might actually be more necessary. So we're going to put the URL here. I'm going to put it in a link. So not only you could see the URL, we can actually click on the URL, pass in the link. But only if the URL exists. So this is actually more important. Right, so we have the URL, we have the name of the snippet. We could click on the URL to get more information. Or we could just view what we have as the snippet. So this is fantastic. One way you can make this better, again, is a simple single script file. So I'm going to load it up to my site, and I'm going to use this for myself as well. It's pretty clean, pretty efficient. So one of the things you can make this better is you can add a little search, because eventually a snippet is going to get long. So you can add a little search and make that work so you can search for stuff. But other than that, It's pretty cool, it's pretty simple, and does exactly what you want it to do. Maybe put a target here. Let's do that. There are all these ways you could improve it, right? You think about after. So put a target so it carries you to the page, right? So yeah, we are complete. Thanks for watching.